I think you've already won, quite honestly, just by going and just by taking the risk that most people would never, ever take. The results of the actual date, I don't want to say are inconsequential. They're consequential. But just the fact that you went and took that risk, I got a lot of respect for you, man.
Really? Well, thank you. That means a lot to me. And I think that's what I was trying to define before I even booked the plane ticket, because I think it would have been so much pressure to be like, this is only going to be a success if it ends in some kind of positive romantic outcome. And I think I was really trying to set myself up for success. I'm like, okay, what else can I get out of this weekend? Like, if I'm going to go and all of a sudden I show up on Thursday and he cancels, like, how is this going to be something successful for me? And so I was trying to define those priorities before I went, so that when I went there and was a ball of nerves, I could just let go and let the weekend happen.
So let's say we have a brand new listener listening for the first time today. Can you even do a quick 60-second recap getting into the weekend?
Yeah. So about 2 months ago, I went on a girls' trip to Dublin, spent a couple of days in London, and just had literally the most magical week of my life. It just felt like everything fell into place. And my last name is Murphy, so I follow Murphy's Law. Like, what can go wrong is going to go wrong, and probably even worse. And so when I had this week where it just felt like there was magic in the air, I felt like life had possibilities for the first time in a while that I just didn't want to leave. And a lot of that had to do with the way this day in London kind of played out. I showed up in London, had a sorority sister cancel on me. We were supposed to get drinks and dinner somewhere. And all of a sudden, I'm in this foreign city, in this foreign country by myself. And I tried to set up the week so it didn't go that way. So I'm freaking out on Hinge, trying to find somebody to hang out with that night so I'm not alone in London. I meet this guy, and it just ended up being like this whirlwind romance for the night that I couldn't stop thinking about. And I just felt like I didn't have closure on it. So I decided to go back.
Unbelievable.
So this
Love it so much.
It really is. Yeah. And did he know right from the start that the only reason why you were going was to hang out with him, or was there some other?
No, okay. I was not. Can you imagine the pressure that would have put on that situation? And I kind of tried to play it off on social media as if I was there for what I was really there for. I mean, this is technically my work. So I was technically there for work, but I also set up things that would make me feel as if this was a normal day in my life. So I was like, what would I be doing on a normal Thursday? I'd be interviewing somebody for my podcast. I would be working out. So I tried to be a little active on Thursday and walk around. I set up a podcast interview in London. And then I felt like that was going to set me up to feel like this was a normal day where I was just going to meet a guy for a second date. It just so happens that it's in a foreign country and I had to hop on a flight to get there.
Listen, you can try to downplay this all you want, but we are not.
I'm trying to keep some dignity here. We can all recognize that it was a little bit like cannonballing into crazy.
He's also going to feel a whole bunch more comfortable if he knows that you're going to be there anyway, and he's just a accessory. It's an added thing to your schedule rather than it being the nucleus of your schedule.
That's like way too much. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Like, thank God, I don't think he's heard any of these segments. So thank God we've kept it that way. Anyway, so I show up in London on Thursday, and I think I'm just as nervous to tell the story as I was the day of the date. Like, I have not been that anxious in a long time. I mean, this is like really just stepping out on a limb here. Like, I'm in a foreign country. I'm about to meet this guy for a second date. Already something I don't typically do, because most guys I go out with don't make it to the second date. So I am just freaking out. It's Thursday. I finish up my podcast interview, which, by the way, went really well. And we start texting, and he said, okay, I'm in Mayfair, which is this, nice neighborhood in London. You're in XYZ part of the city. Meet me there. And so he says he's already at the pub, and I'm 30 minutes away. So I have no time. I got to book it there. So I am running across the city. I'm getting on the tube, and I'm so nervous that I'm like, there's no way I can do this without like some inebriation. Like, I need a beer. I need a shot. I need something. So
how long did you prepare? Like, picking out the perfect outfit and pre-gaming for this whole thing before you even left?
Oh, I got my hair done. I went to Dry Bar. They did amazing. Yeah, I had my hair did. I picked out the outfit, which, I used an iron for the first time to iron a white button down, because I knew we were going to do like happy hour. And I was like, I want to blend in. I want to like look like I work in London. So, I mean, yeah, there was definitely some preparation for it. So, I'm running across town, and I get to Mayfair. And if you've ever been to London, there's like pubs on every corner. Like you can't walk a mile without seeing at least 15 different bars. And I found the one stretch of London that was all like department stores, could not find a single bar. And so I'm probably 2 minutes away from the pub and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go sober. And then I see the pub where he's meeting me. And this is where my first mistake for the date comes in, is there's a couple of pubs there. And I'm like, okay, the pub he wants to go to is on the far right. I'm going to go to the pub on the far left, take a shot, roll up, confident, and like a little bit inebriated. So I roll up to the pub. I'm feeling all confident. I'm in my heels. So it's like clack, clack, clack on the cobblestones. I walk in, hair's blowing from the blowout. I belly up to the bar. I look at the bartender. I'm like, I need a shot of Jameson. And he's like, you got it, random girl. So he gives me the shot of Jameson. I feel like such a baddie. I'm like, I take the shot. I slam it on the pub bar. And I'm just kind of having this moment where I'm like, I am who I wanted to be when I grew up. Like I am the rich hot aunt with a lover in London right now.
I am that girl.
I am that girl. And that goes away in about 2 seconds because then that Jameson wants to come right back up because I'm so nervous my body can't process it.
Starting to feel it in your jowls?
Starting to feel it in my jowls a little bit, but I'm like, I can't keep this guy waiting any longer. It's been like 45 minutes, whatever. So I step outside, I get my bearings, I look at my phone, I'm looking at all the pubs, and he's saying, okay, I need to meet you at the Mason Arms. That's the name of the pub. And so I'm like, okay, which one was I just at? So I know where to go. And I look up, and there it says, the Mason Arms. Oh, God. And I realized...
Was he watching you do the shot?
So I go, oh, God. What did I just do? So I'm standing there and I'm waiting for the Jameson to hit, and it's not processing. It's just sitting in my gut bubbling and is not going into my bloodstream. So I'm still sober and now a little nauseous. But I take a deep breath. I walk back in and I start scanning the crowd because I didn't see him when I walked in. I'm like looking around, and there he is in direct eye shot of the bar, sitting in a corner booth looking at me. And I go, hi! And now I'm even more nervous because now I feel like I'm going to throw up. Now I haven't had time to like mentally prepare. I feel like I just had to like run back in and like make this happen. So he's sitting there. He's got a beer for him and a beer for me. And I sit down and I just start rambling. And to my surprise, he's just as excited to see me. He is sitting there and he is in a great mood. He's like, how is everything? What brings you here? And he's giving me a little hard time. He's like, oh yeah, like you're back in London for yeah. And so I'm like, now I'm a little anxious. I'm like, he can't know that I'm here for a date for him. And we just fall into this really great stride that, if I'm being honest, the last date we didn't totally have. It was a first date, so it's a little stiff, and we were having a good time. But this time, like we're going back and forth, and we're asking about each other's families. And learning about each other. I'm like, this is going really, really well.
It's a proper date.
It's a proper date.
Yes.
So then we start bopping to a bunch of other bars, and he's like, "Have you eaten today? Like, I need to make sure I feed you." I'm like, "Oh, you're gonna feed? Okay." So we're holding hands, and he's escorting.
You're holding hands.
We're holding hands.
I thought you were gonna say, what? He fed you?
No. Yeah, fries. So I'm trying to like make sure I don't skip over anything. So let me look at my notes real quick. But so yeah.
Hold for just 1 second.
Okay.
All right. Let's all enjoy this. Where does he hold your hand at? Are you still in the bar? Are you walking out of the bar to the next place? And how are you feeling when he reaches down for your hand?
Oh, okay. So we're leaving the pub. He like grabs my lower back, kind of escorts me outside of the pub.
This guy.
This guy. Gentleman right here.
That big bear paw, because he's like, what, 6'1"?
Yeah, he's 6'6", ex-rugby player. And my shirt was kind of coming out of, maybe this is a little bit too much for this up there. My shirt was kind of coming out of my pants, and he like tucks it back in for me. And then like we leave the pub, he grabs my hand, he starts tugging me towards the next place. He's like, have you eaten today? Like, I've got, this was so funny. He goes, I have a coupon for Wingstop if you want to go. And I'm like, I'm not going to Wingstop in London, England. The heck? So he takes me to another, this is classic. I'm like, of course they're going to do the same thing everywhere. Guys in Atlanta take me to Wingstop. This guy's going to take me to Wingstop. So he takes me to another pub, and we're talking, and he gets me some fries because I'm like, I realize I haven't eaten all day. He's like, I need to feed you. So we get some food, we get some more drinks, and I'm talking to him about, how his parents met. And he said, my mom was a model and my dad saw her, and that was it. And I was like, oh, that's such a cool story. And then I tell him how my parents met. And then I notice he's wearing a really fancy watch. And my dad's really big into watches. And so I'm like, oh, tell me about your watch. And he's telling me he's really into watches too. And so I'm telling him what my dad has told me about watches. And I said, let's text my dad. Let's see what my dad's opinion is on your watch. So now it's me, my dad, and this guy texting. And
oh my God, this is so cute. I can't handle it.
And I'm sending my dad a picture of the watch. I was like, you can see the skeleton and my dad's really big into watch skeletons. Look, this is a skeleton watch. Like, you've got to be into this. And it's just...
Do your parents know what's on the line at this point also? Does your dad know?
Everybody knows. Okay. Everybody knows what's happening.
Her dad knows he's talking to his future son-in-law. It's cute.
So we're talking about our watches. I'm like, this is going really, really well. And then he goes, I want to take you to one more place. He goes, I want to take you to where we met. And
I hate to do this, and I'm not being that guy. We're just out of time right here. So save it. And when we come back, we'll hear about the second part of the date.
This is not where I wanted to end it, but okay.
Oh, I hate our show also right now.
I feel like this has to be a 3-parter at this point. There's a twist.
Okay.
And this is not what... Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
We'll do it again.
Is not okay.
It's way better than Emily in Paris. It's Abby in London. All right.
Okay, so I just left off. Me and him are sitting at this pub. We're calling him London Boy. Me and London Boy are sitting at this pub. I'm having a glass of Pinot Noir. He's having a Guinness, and we're both, talking about each other's lives over a plate of fries, or as crisps, as they say in their country. It was funny because he was like, "Oh, can I get you some crisps?" As we're sitting there, and I'm like, "Which one is that? Is that chips? Is that fries?" And I'm like, "Fries?" ? And he goes, "No, they're crisps." And then he brought back both chips and fries when he came back. So now we're sitting there and we're talking about just, everything. And I'm really getting to know this guy. And we have really good banter. Like, we're both... What I really like about him is that a lot of the problems I've had with guys is that sometimes I feel like I can walk over them a little bit because I do have kind of an aggressive personality. And so for the fact that he can kind of push back a little bit with me, it was just keeping it fun and interesting. I feel like me and him can kind of give each other crap, and it's not like, well, you made a joke in me. And, he's just got this really great masculine energy. He's, walking me through crowds and holding my hand and putting his hand on my lower back and pushing me through the streets of London. And, it's 10 p.m. in London. And I don't feel like we're going to get mugged because I'm like, who's going to go after this dude?
Yeah.
I feel
at
like
one point, did he bite you by the nape and carry you around that way as though you were a puppy?
No, but that's kind of how it felt.
I do feel like there's something that is it's such a turn on when you can verbally spar with somebody.
Yes.
And they can give it just as good as they can receive it.
Yes. And also just getting to kind of turn your brain off as a woman. I feel like, especially as a solo traveler, I feel like this was one of the things that was, so exciting when I was traveling 2 months ago in London is, your brain is on constantly. You're in a foreign country, you're traveling, you're at the airport, you're constantly thinking, and to just kind of feel like, I'm just going to be a girl. Yeah. It felt so nice.
And just for him to have the instinct that, okay, she's new to my town. I will plan everything. She won't really have to think about it at all. Says a lot about this dude.
100%. So we're sitting at this pub and he goes, okay, there's one more place I want to take you. And I want to take you to the place where we met. It's a cocktail bar called the Little Scarlet Door. And I had loved it when we went there. So I was excited to go back. So again, he grabs me by the hand, walks me over to Little Scarlet Door, and we're sitting at this cocktail bar. Again, just having really great conversation. And he looks at me and he goes, I know you really love to dance. Downstairs, we can go dance. So let's go dance.
This guy dances also?
This man is killing it right now.
So we go downstairs. We're having a good time. We're both, so inebriated at this point. We've talked about everything. So it's kind of nice to just listen to some Beyonce and dance. And
is he a good dancer?
He was really inebriated at this point. So good is subjective.
But we didn't get the ick.
But we didn't get the ick. I was maybe concerned because I was like, I know this guy's been drinking a lot. I didn't realize how much until this point. But I will say, and I think every single girl can kind of relate to this at some point, but there comes a point where you're always in a crowd and sometimes you notice couples and they get to dance together. And, it's always nice to get to dance with your girls. But this was really fun. And I was like, I get to dance with a boy this time. And, he's indulging me and getting to just be weird and dance to Beyonce. And, Taylor Swift comes on and he's excited for me because he knows I love Taylor Swift. He's like, oh, Taylor Swift. I'm like, I know. And so Love Story comes on and we're both singing to each other.
I
love story came on? Are you kidding me?
And we're both just staring at each other. He's like, it's a love story, baby, just say yes. He's twirling me around, and it's just, lovely.
If you tell us that you woke up and this all happened in your dream, I am going to kill you. This sounds like a dream.
It really does.
Let's stick with me here. So we're having a really great time at this bar, but I get to a point where I realize he's not going to go home unless I say we need to go home. It's like 1 a.m. at this point. It's Thursday. I'm like, this guy's got work in the morning. I've been up for now 48 hours. I'm also still nauseous from that Jameson shot I took earlier. I forgot to tell you guys, I spent the first 10 minutes dry heaving in the bathroom because that's how nauseous I was.
No. Did you do that thing where you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, I'm not going to throw up?
Yes.
I'm not going to throw up.
I'm literally staring at myself in the mirror. I'm like, because at first I was like, I need to throw up so I can feel better for the rest of the date. And then it wouldn't come up. So essentially for this whole date, I've been on pins and needles trying not to throw up. And the red wine and chips are just not helping here. So I look at him and I was like, I need to go home. Like, I'm exhausted. I'm nauseous. Hopefully, he had already at this point asked me out again. We had been sitting at a pub. Hang on, I have to burp. Okay. You're thinking about that Jameson. It's like coming back up.
All right, let's not let this go by so fast. He has already now asked you out for a second date.
Third. Oh my gosh, there's so many details I've forgotten. I'm sorry, this is so long.
Keep going. Who cares?
So wait, backtrack before we get to Little Scarlet Door. We're sitting at this other pub that he was so excited to take me to. He's like, I know you love country music. They play country music here. So of course, like there's Sweet Caroline playing in the background, Wagon Wheel playing in the background. We're at this Irish pub. We're sitting cozied in a corner, and he looks at me and he pulls out his phone and he goes, how much do you think flights to Atlanta are?
Because he was going to send you back immediately?
Return to sender.
And he's looking at the airlines. He's like, which one of these are good? He's like, I've never been to the States before, so I don't know what American Airlines are good. And I was like, well, I flew Delta here. And so I'm like, and I'm giving him the rundown.
There's so much goodness going on. He listened to your words that you like country music. He remembered them, brought you to there's all the green flags.
All of them. So, okay, so we're talking about that, and then, we're drinking, and he goes, how long are you here for again? And I tell him the day that I'm leaving, and he goes, and I said, I have plans tomorrow, because again, I wanted to make sure that I was not making him the nucleus, and also making sure that there were other areas of success for me. So I was like, I have plans with friends that I met last time I'm here, so I can't hang out tomorrow.
Loving the energy.
But I told him, I'm free all day Saturday if you want to hang out. And he goes, because I also told him that I love Mamma Mia. He goes, there's this really fun brunch spot that we can go to on Saturday. All they do is play Mamma Mia and you dance on chairs.
This dude,
what more can you want?
His attention to detail is impeccable.
It's very
And
impressive.
so I'm all like giddy because I'm like, yay, now I have plans for Saturday, because I left Saturday intentionally open for this reason. So I'm like, thank God, like I planned correctly. This is so great. And so, okay, now fast forward, we're back. This is the end of the day. We're at Little Scarlet Door. My phone has now died at this point. And I look at him and I was like, I have no idea where I am. I need you to walk me back. He goes, no problem. I'll walk you back. He pulls out Google Maps. I tell him where I'm staying. And, he's ushering me throughout the city, and we're chit-chatting and, of course, being very affectionate. And we get back to the hotel, and
you guys are kissing?
No, just, kind of like
holding hands.
Holding hands.
Okay, right.
I've got his arm, and he's walking me. He's in his little Paddington peacoat. It's very British.
Are you taking your head and nuzzling?
Yes, of course. He's got his arm around me, and one thing I remembered from our first date was he I don't know if this sounds weird, but he loved to kiss my forehead and the top of my head. So I had sprayed a little perfume up there. And he goes, you smell so good. I'm like,
just reeling him in.
and I was like, I know.
He's not the only one with attention to detail.
Yeah.
He's like, you smell like Christmas cookies. And I'm like, I know.
Wait, what?
It was like a vanilla perfume.
This just became a Lifetime Christmas movie.
Yeah. Small town girl goes to lunch. Anyway, so we're walking back to the hotel. I tell him I'll see him on Saturday, and we part ways, and I go back to my room, and I'm like, can't wait to update these guys on what just happened. I'm now hammered in bed, pulling out my date diaries, and in this moment, this is how I'm feeling.
Okay, this man's literally obsessed with me. Not to brag, but this man wants to take me out on this very specific type of date.
Mamma Mia.
I won't reveal what it is, but I'm very intrigued to what's going to go down, because he is very excited about it. So I think we're seeing each other on Saturday. So to be continued.
So I end that. I'm so tired because I've now been up for 48 hours. I'm exhausted and tired and drunk. And so all I do is want to fall asleep. So I go to sleep, And I wake up to a text from him the next morning that I was not expecting. And I didn't know how to interpret it because it could have meant one of two things. And when I responded, I thought it meant one thing. And then the next day I was like, I think this means something else because of the way he was reacting to that message.
Oh boy.
And I will reveal what that is whenever we do part 3.
Okay.
Abby!
Wow.
On the Bert Show.
It'll be in like 15 minutes. This better not go bad.
Oh, man.
We are rooting for you.
We're all rooting for you.
All right.
Deep breath.
Here we go. Part 3 now of Abby in London.
This is turning out to be way longer than I anticipated it to be. I thought this was going to be a 2-parter, but I was just in the back with the youth group and I was making some notes to make sure I didn't miss anything. And I was like, this might actually have to be a 4-parter because there's a lot of layers here. Back to the London boy story. So, where I left off with me getting a text that I didn't quite understand from him after the end of our first date.
Enchanting night.
Second date in London. I'm in bed. I just updated everybody on the date diaries that this man is in love with me. Like he is obsessed with me. He's looking at flights to Atlanta. We just said goodbye. We're planning to see each other again on Saturday for a Mamma Mia brunch.
Did you guys have a goodnight kiss?
Of course.
Okay.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you think I'm in London, like talking to this guy with my dad and we're not going to kiss?
Yeah.
Why you bring your dad into it, you weirdo?
That did weird it up a
Well,
little bit.
I mean, like, you know, in terms of like emotional, whatever. Anyway.
Okay.
Where do I want to
Scale
start?
of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best kiss ever.
This is actually better than the first time. It was more like the first time it was like a drunk make out. This time we kissed. It was like, oh, he like put some effort into this.
Okay.
This is great.
All right.
There's some effort here.
And your lips weren't completely numb this time
No.
from the alcohol.
From the alcohol. Now I remembered it. So I get off the date diaries, and I want to make sure I get this right. I do my date diaries. I go to bed. Or no. I do my date diaries. I look at my phone, my WhatsApp, which is the texting platform that all the Europeans have. And I have like 7 missed calls from him.
7?
And a bunch of gibberish texts about him getting home. And I'm very confused.
Now you said you guys both had drank a lot.
We had both had a lot to drink. He asked if he could come up, and I was like, that's not really my speed, but I'll see you on Saturday, that kind of thing. And he was visibly disappointed, but I'm like, whatever, like he's drunk, like I'm not reading too much into this. I go upstairs, do my date diaries. I see I have a bunch of missed calls from him, some texts that are like kind of gibberish. I don't really totally know what they mean. So I'm texting him. I'm like, are you okay? Like, are you getting mugged? Do you need my help?
Can I ask you a real quick question? Okay, so what time in the morning are these texts and calls? Are these right after the date?
Yes.
So you're talking about like 2, 3 in the morning?
This is like 2 in the morning.
Okay.
This is about an hour after 30 minutes after we've said goodbye.
And you're sleeping through these and see them in the morning, or you're getting them in real time?
This is before I go to bed.
Okay.
So I see all these notifications, a bunch of missed calls, and I'm like making sure he's okay. And then he just ends it. He says, don't worry, ends it with a text that says, we have a lot to discuss tomorrow, X. And X is kind of an affectionate thing for the British. It's sort of like kind of like saying like LOL or haha. It's a tone setter.
Yeah, it's XOXO. It's a kiss.
Yes. And he says, we have a lot to discuss tomorrow. And I reply, cryptic, trying to be funny. Like, like we have a lot to discuss tomorrow, whatever. So I go to bed and I don't hear from him all day.
What an ominous text to end on.
How do you even fall asleep after something
48
like that?
hours of sleep deprivation and 7 glasses of wine.
Okay.
I was exhausted. So I go to bed. I wake up. It's Friday. I don't hear from him all day. So I decide to text him when I know he's getting off work. And I say, this is quite the cliffhanger. Just, again, trying to be funny and lighthearted. Because I'm thinking I'm thinking after a fun date like that, like you're going to text the girl that you just had, 7 hours of fun with.
For sure.
And all he says is, I would love to know what this was about. And I'm thinking, he just doesn't remember what all those gibberish texts were. He's like, he's like just like laughing off how drunk he was. I would love to know what this is about. And I said, you and me both. Like, you don't remember what you were texting me about. You don't know what you were calling me about, whatever.
Now I feel like I took the shot of Jameson because my stomach is in knots.
I am so nervous right now.
You and me. So again, I'm in London by myself. 50% specifically for this guy, thinking it's going really well, everything's great, and now all of a sudden I have 2 more days left in London, and it's all of a sudden not a surefire thing anymore, as it was a couple hours ago. So he doesn't respond to that. I had made plans to go out with friends that night, so we all bopped around Mayfair together, and I'm kind of having a hard time having a good time because all I can think about is I thought I had fun plans tomorrow, and now I don't even know if I'm going to see this guy again. So Saturday comes around. I still don't hear from him. We're supposed to do this Mamma Mia brunch thing. So I decide I'm just going to bop around London. I get very lost. So I end up just in Notting Hill, which is the one neighborhood I feel like I just always ended up at, and stumble into this pub where everyone's watching like a soccer match. And I pull out my book, Notes on Heartbreak, in front of a cozy fire. I've got the most delicious glass of Sauvignon Blanc. Who knew the Brits knew how to pick a Sauvignon Blanc? And I'm getting a little wine drunk because I've had nothing in my stomach all day because I physically can't eat. And I'm chatting with the locals, and they love that I've just stumbled upon their local pub. And they're like, oh, an American, this is fun. So they get me another drink, and now I'm 2 glasses of Sauvignon Blanc deep, reading a book on heartbreak in a pub in London, thinking, what the heck? How am I going to... Because at the same time, I'm kind of like, I know this story needs an end, and so I've got to at least figure out what's going on. So somewhere in the Sauvignon Blanc haze, it dawns on me that as I'm rereading the text, he means, oh, I would love to know what this was about. This meaning me and him. And I'm kind of like, oh, he must think because I'm going out with him and I don't live here that I'm obviously just here for like a hookup. And he's very confused about this. So I craft a text back that says, I reread your text. I'm really sorry for misreading your intentions. I thought we were both enjoying getting to know each other. No worries. Have a good Saturday. Hope your move today is going well. Because he told me to move a couple of things into his new flat. So,
Wait, so at this point, are you like, oh, he's getting cold feet and doesn't want to see me because it's just a fling?
I'm thinking I'm thinking I'm here because I think, who's to say your person is in your city? So I'm like, trying to flesh this out. And also, I'm technically here for work. I'm doing some podcast things. So I'm like, this is just my second opportunity to see if like you're it. And he thinks I'm just an American running through London, having a good time. And he's going to do all these nice things for a hookup. So I'm kind of sitting there feeling that way. And then he sends me a text back and he goes, in hindsight, I think I called you about like me trying to get home. I just looked at my credit card statement. So I took an electric scooter back to this part of London. And so I'm kind of like, okay, so we keep going back and forth. He's like, what are you up to today? I'm like, kind of mad because I'm like, this mofo, like you thought we were supposed to hang out today. Yeah. And so I keep being like, nothing, just bopping around London. And he asked me again at some point. We're still talking. I'm telling him, pretending to be a soccer fan. Like, I don't know who to root for. Who should I root for? And we're having like a good conversation. So I'm like, okay, maybe I then miss it. Now I'm feeling crazy. Like now I'm like, okay, so maybe I misinterpreted my misinterpretation. And he really was talking about being too drunk to understand what these messages were about. And so now I'm like, okay, we're back on a good foot. So he's going to ask me out again. I'll at least get to see him one more time. Kind of feeling weird about this situation now.
So why, when he said, what are you doing today? Why didn't you say, well, we have plans at blank to go see Mamma Mia or whatever it was?
Because I wanted him to step up and say, I asked you out. I didn't. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't want to force you. Maybe he's trying to get out of it. I don't know. So he goes, oh, you didn't go to Mamma Mia? And I said, well, I thought that would have been a weird thing to go to alone. And then I shrug. And then he doesn't say anything. And now I'm like, I have to have an end. I can't. I've flown too far for this just to end for us to just ghost each other. So I send him, I have one final sip of Sauvignon Blanc. And I decide to send him a Hail Mary text. And I basically say something along the lines of, what did I say? I basically said something along the lines of, I don't really know where this is going, but if you don't want to see, do you want to just have one more really fun, crazy, drunken night together and end this on a high note before we inevitably never see each other again?
Oh, no.
Oh. Just kind of like, kind of jokingly being like, haha, at this point, I'm like, I need an end to this. I've committed to the bit too much. Like, I thought we liked each other. Like, do you just want to see each other one more time? And immediately he's like, oh my gosh, absolutely. Blah, blah, blah. I'm still moving today. I can't make it into Central because I do live kind of far from Central, but would love to take you to this pub that's in my neck of the woods if you want to come out with me and my friends. And I'm thinking, all right, ending to the story here. I'll go out and meet him. I am now recognizing I'm going very, very long. I don't know if I have time to end this in this part, but I can if you really need me to.
No, let's do it when we come back. I don't want to. That's why I skipped it before, because I didn't want to rush through it. So everybody in here is just like you guys listening, going, "Tell the story."
Sorry, I swear I will end it at the next part.
You're not doing anything wrong. You're doing it just at the right pace. It's just that we've got commercials to play. I mean,
look at me. This is good.
Yeah,
okay.
You're doing great.
You're doing fine.
Yeah. Okay.
This thing better not end bad. I will rush over there. I will bring Mo and big people, and we will beat him up.
Let's get it.
Do you want me to tease tease how it ends?
No.
Okay. All right. I'll leave it here.
I'm nervous.
I do
though.
feel like there must have been like some kind of miscommunication, or his drunkenness got him thinking something different than you.
It's like every 1, 2, 3 dates that you go on. You send a text, you're overanalyzing,
Yep.
he's overanalyzing, everybody's trying to beat around the bush and stuff here. Nobody really knows what each other is thinking. Okay.
This got to be number 2 on Netflix right now. That's what I know.
My initial thought, prediction in my head was, oh my God, he found out that you do a morning show, and he went on and listened and has listened to this whole storyline. He's wondering if this is just manufactured for a story. So at this point, he still doesn't know that you're in radio?
That's funny. That's Kaylee's exact prediction in the back. And I will say that never came up once.
So, if you're with each other so much over the course of that 24, 48 hours, the job never comes up? Like he doesn't ask what you do, or that just it never comes up?
I think that was a part of the appeal of when I went out with him. Is that's something I've really struggled with dating in Atlanta, is that I'm a very easy Google search for somebody that lives here. And it creates a very uncomfortable power dynamic that I've had a hard time accepting, because I think it's important to accept it and to not complain about it, because this is just what I signed up for. Like, if I'm going to be open and honest, people are going to A, be intimidated about the publicity and be turned off by that, or B, they're going to know everything about me before I even step in front of them.
Did you find yourself purposely avoiding a conversation about what you do for a living? Because it seems like it would just come up.
The first time we met, we talked about it, but like the Europeans do not talk about work. And that's even with the friends that I met. Like, I would be like, oh, so what do you guys do for work? And they'd be like, I'm a something analyst, and then move on. Like they think it's very boring.
It's an American thing, because what we like to do is we subconsciously like to test each other. Like, where are we? Is this person good enough for me to talk to? Right?
yeah.
You don't find that in a lot of cultures, and even outside the country.
So I'm wondering if at the end of your all's second date, and it was another like incredible date, and he walked you back to your hotel because you asked him to walk you back to your hotel to get back there safely, that he had built some expectation up in his head that he was going to come upstairs and you guys were going to have like, a magical night or whatever. What would they say on The Bachelor? You go back to the...
Oh yeah, if you want to forgo your individual rooms and
fantasy suite.
The fantasy suites.
Yeah.
And to an extent, like when he was upset when I turned him down, I kind of got that to a point. I'm like, he's a dude, he's drunk, I get it. I'm not going to like hold this over your head.
No, totally. And I'm not I'm not faulting anybody with how they handled that situation, but I'm wondering if because of like the copious amounts of alcohol that you guys had, that when he was walking away, he started to get it in his head like, so what is this? Like what are we doing here? And that's why he sent that WhatsApp text.
And that's why I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Like I'm not holding any anger towards him. I'm just trying to figure out, are we going to see each other again? And if we do, is it going to be just as good as it was the last couple of times, or is it going to feel like things have taken a turn to where he's kind of like, he still put me in that box and I'm still kind of trying to suss it out to see if there's like a romantic future here.
Okay.
So that's where we're at. There's the 4.5 minute recap of that. So basically now we're at a point where we're texting and he's like, I say, are we going to ever see each other again? Like, what are we doing? And he's like, you can come to this pub that I'm going to with my flatmates tonight. Would love to see you. And so I'm like, okay, good. We're back on a good foot. I'll go hang out with my friends tonight at a cocktail bar in Soho. I'll take an Uber down to his neighborhood. It'll be great. Great way to end the story. So I end up going down to meet him at this pub, like in another part of London, and the line is crazy, crazy long. So he comes and finds me at the front. He's like, listen, like this line is too long. Just hop the fence. I'll cover you. And so I'm like, okay. And he's like, I'm like, what? It's my final night in London. I'm like, what the hey? So and he's like,
You start scaling a wall like a spider monkey?
It's just like a ledge. It's not like it's like a big fence. And he goes, but you have to be subtle about it. And I look at him and I was like, have you ever known me to be subtle? And then he kind of rolls his eyes and like, just hop over the fence. So I hop over the fence. His flatmates are behind him. Immediately, the bouncer kicks us all out.
Oh, no.
wow.
Really?
Yeah. So now we have to hop the fence back, and they're like, you guys can't come back in here anymore. And so now I feel horrible, because here I am, this random American that's just showed up to see this guy, these two boys who have no idea who I am, have no investment in this. Like, now we have to change pubs. So now we go to a different bar, and I feel so bad that I'm like, you guys, let me get you all around a shot. So I get them a shot of tequila, and we're all riffing. I'm like, oh, this is actually really, really great. Like, I'm really getting on with the two guys. I'm joking with them about how there's a height requirement for their friend group because they are all 6'7", 6'6" former rugby players. And it's going really well until...
Oh, no.
This is where it turns. So we're standing there and we're in front of his friends, and this kind of all has to do with something that I was wearing that night. And it brought back memories. Two things that happened this night brought back memories of things that I kind of justified or kind of ignored the first couple times that we had met. And this time it hit a little different, I guess, with the context of how the night ended on Thursday. I think I was still kind of like clocking that information as like, okay, this is something that happened. This is maybe an expectation he has. I need to like kind of clock this. So I'm standing with these guys, and something that I had noticed on the dates that we have been on is like, yes, he's very affectionate and touchy in a way that like is so made me feel like so like protected and cherished. But then I would say progressively as we would get drunker, it went from being like affectionate to what I would call handsy. Gropey. And I think there was a part of me that's like, don't be a prude, Abby. Like maybe this is just my avoidant attachment style coming out. Like maybe I just need to be more comfortable. Like maybe, this is just what couples do, I guess. Like, he's excited. He's a drunk boy, and he's excited about me. I'm a cute girl and we like each other, and he's just, he's drunk and he's getting handsy. But I'm wearing a skirt this time around, and we're in front of his friends in a crowded bar.
You're wearing a what?
Skirt. A skirt with shorts underneath.
Got it.
So I'm wearing a skirt. And immediately, I've been there like 2 minutes. We just took this shot, and all of a sudden his hand just goes up my skirt, my skirt, in front of everybody. And I look at him, I'm like, hang on, like I'm flashing at everyone. He goes, no, your jacket's covering it. I'm like, no, put your hand down. And so he does that, and it kind of progressively gets a little bit more like grabby throughout the night. But again, I'm kind of like pushing it off. I'm like, whatever, like he's just an excited boy. And eventually the guys leave, and he goes, let's have one more fun night, let's go to this club. I'm like, okay. He's like, I'm so excited. Margot Robbie used to go to this club all the time. So I'm like, okay,
so now at this point you've got a decision to make, because you're turned off by the handsiness, but you're like, you're just trying to, you're making excuses for it.
I'm kind of justifying it, because then he stops, and then then he's being cute, and he's like kissing me on the forehead again. I'm like, okay, maybe he just needed to be told to like stop. He's just again drinking too much. He's really excited, whatever.
Or maybe he was trying to show off in front of his flatmates.
And so that made me feel some type of way too. I'm like, now this feels gratuitous for you. Now I start to feel a little bit less than. I feel a little used. So then we go outside, and he's like, I'm going to call us an Uber to go to this club. I'm like, perfect. Would love to share the Uber with you. He goes, no. We're talking to these two guys, and he's like, I'm going to get these guys to pay for our cover charge at the next place. I'm like, oh, sick, cool. So we get in the car, we get out of to the club. Those two guys bolt. We never see them again. And he's like kind of visibly upset that they like aren't paying our 15-pound cover charge for each of us. And I'm like, no worries, I got this. We get in line. Things are back to normal. He's hugging me around the neck, and we're being like the obnoxious couple in line at Disney World. And we get in, I immediately put my card down. It's like 30 pounds for us both to get in. I'm like, don't worry, you just get the drinks or whatever.
What's that, like $35?
Yeah, for drinks in England, it was like 10 pounds for us both to drink. Like, it's pretty cheap.
But a pound is equivalent to a dollar plus, right?
So if it's 26 pounds, it was probably $33 for me to get in. $33 for me to get into this club. So we get into the club, and we immediately go to the bar. He's like, what do you want? And I'm like, I've been drinking tequila all night, tequila soda. So he gets a beer, and he gets me a gin and soda, which I was kind of like, that's weird. I've been drinking tequila all night. Like, this is kind of random. And then he looks at the price, and he goes, why'd you get such an expensive drink? And I go, oh, yeah, okay, whatever. So then we go to the dance floor. We're dancing, and I'm kind of noticing that he's just not. I think one of the things that was so endearing about him was when we first went out, it was like if we were in a crowd, he was looking out for me. If someone stepped on my toe, he was going to say something about it. Like, it was very like protective energy. And now I'm like feeling like it's not headed that way. He's still being kind of grabby. He's not really like looking out for me, and I'm literally getting shoved. Like, I'm this 5'3" person in a crowd of like 6-footers getting pushed back and forth, and I'm very visibly uncomfortable. And I look at him, and I was like, can we go stand somewhere else? And he kind of rolls his eyes, and I'm like, sure, whatever. I'm going to go get another drink. So he's finished his beer at this point. We go to the bar. And so at this point, I'm like kind of ready to go home, and we're standing at this bar, and he looks at me, he goes, I'm going to run to the bathroom, just grab me whatever beer. And I was like, okay. And I'm standing there, and I'm thinking about how many times he's done that the past couple times we've hung out, where he would just mysteriously go somewhere to the bathroom or wherever and say, get me whatever drink. And I'm thinking, oh, this is what couples do. We split. He gets around, I get around. He gets around, I get around. But with the context of the gropiness, and now thinking about how many times I've bought him a drink and how angry he got at the people who didn't want to pay our cover charge, I'm like, now I'm starting to feel a little used financially. And if this was a show, it's almost like you could just see the camera zooming in on me as I'm kind of like just standing off, staring, thinking of every time that it's happened. And I'm starting to feel a little icky. Like I can just feel his hands on me and it doesn't feel good. And he's in the bathroom and I'm like, okay, when he comes back, just try and put on a good face. And then I go home in like an hour. And so he comes back and he looks at me and he goes, you didn't get me a beer. And I go, well, the bartender hasn't come to me yet. And he goes, go, call the bartender over. And I was like, I still have my gin and soda I had like 2 drinks of. I was like, you get the bartender. So he gets the bartender. He grabs a beer or he asks for a beer and then he looks at me and goes, what do you want? And I was like, I don't need another drink. And he goes, but you're getting this round. And I'm like,
what?
No, I'm not. I don't need one. Get your 4-pound beer. I'm really good. And he rolls his eyes. He slams his card down on the card reader. And this is where it ends for me. He puts his card down and he's huffing and puffing. And then he grabs the card reader. And after he puts his card down and it's taken it and he's ready to give it back and he gets his beer, he slams the card reader down and I flinch. And I have this moment of where I've spoken to women before who have talked about experiencing men who are kind of aggressive and violent. And I will never forget what and I'm not saying this is domestic violence, but I talked to a domestic violence expert about this at one point. She said, a lot of times men will hit something else before they hit you. And I didn't even take a beat. He slammed the card reader down and I took off and I didn't look back until I ran into a wall. And then I found a bouncer because now I'm afraid. And I asked the bouncer to escort me out and I get in an Uber and I go straight to the hotel. And it takes 25 minutes for him to say something over WhatsApp. He goes, WTF, where are you? You ran away, ? Calls me, I decline. Calls me, I decline. Calls me, I decline. Calls me, I decline. And I get back to my hotel room and I am just like, I never want to be within 5 feet of this guy again. I don't want to see him. I don't want to touch him. I get in the shower and I just feel like I can't get the feeling off of me of him touching me. I just sit in the shower for 10, 15 minutes. I get back in my bed. And I delete the message. I want him to know that I'm not opening that message. I'm done. And so I know this is a really dark ending to what was so exciting of a story. But I just found it really funny that when I first messaged him on Hinge, there was a question he had asked me. And the question was, what gets you obsessed with a guy? And I didn't have an answer. I was like, first of all, this is kind of forward. And I said, I don't know. It's TBD. And I would go out with that guy later that night. And what got me so obsessed with him was like how cherished I felt, how taken care of I felt, how protective I felt. And then for the same guy to then make me feel like that, only on the 3rd date was jarring. And I've had so many women be so excited about this story, and me included. Like, I'm like, wow, this is a really cool experience. Like, I'm kind of living the rom-com that everyone's so excited about. And I was really hoping it would end well, for me, but also, for everyone to believe in love. Because I want there to be hope out there that something special really exists. And I'm like, even if this isn't my guy, like I still hope it's like a good, fun, piece of hope for people to cling on to. And I've had so many women say, you're doing this for all the married women who are so bored with their lives right now and, are just so, are so sick of the mundane. And as I was going home, it was just such an opposite experience of the last time I had gone to London, where I didn't want to go home. I was like, the thought of going to Atlanta just makes me want to rip my skin off. Like, there's so much adventure out there. Like, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to travel and I'm going to have adventures. And then on the flip side, as I was checking in my bags, they offered me $2,000 and a free hotel stay to stay another day. And I thought, I want nothing to do with it. I want to go home. And I was thinking about all those women that had DM'd me saying that they were jealous and, wanted some excitement like that in their life. And I just thought they were so jealous of me and now I am so jealous of them. It is a privilege to get to come home somewhere and to have that mundane comfort and safety, whether it be a place or a person. And I just thought that I can't wait for my life to feel mundane and safe with somebody.
Abby, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, Abby.
For multiple reasons that that you had to have that experience, but also that you had to relive it this morning and we had no idea.
No idea.
So I really commend you for telling the story the way that you did. Like you were an impeccable radio soldier the way you told the story. And obviously we were all so invested. And I want to apologize. We put a lot of pressure on you. And for that, I'm sorry.
Oh my God. First of all, if anybody's listening to this and they're like, Abby should have never had to tell. No, I wanted to tell it. I was really excited. I was nervous to tell it because I was like, sometimes you experience something and you wonder if the nerves or the memories aren't going to come out the way you lived them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I realized until I wrote everything in my notes on the plane. And I don't think until I spoke it out how deeply this bothered me.
Sure. I know this is a cliche, while it hurts, and it's so disappointing for you also, and so scary. Thank God you dodged a bullet.
Mm-hmm.
You really handled it really well.
You really dodged a bullet, man. And I think that there are so many that go through that kind of intoxicating first couple of dates also and might not feel the kind of disappointment that you have because it got dangerous. I feel like this could have been dangerous. You dodged a bullet, and I am so sorry that you had to be so invested in it. I really am. I feel for you.
But I think you have a valuable, there's so many valuable lessons that young women can take from what you just shared. And that I think there are some out there that would have still excused the behavior or justified the behavior and would have stayed at the club. And then who's to say what would have happened later? But you gave them the signs to look out for, and you knew when to walk away. And hopefully that's going to help other young women know when to walk away.
I know your story. You wanted it to end with a positive thing so you could give people hope and love, but I think you've given people something more powerful. Unfortunately, it's to your own detriment, but you've given people the power to trust themselves. You've told every girl out there who's gone on these dates, who's seeing some red flags, but excusing them because this guy is great. You have just told them it's okay for them to listen to themselves and save themselves from heartbreak down the line.
And you also helped us mundane mothers and wives really appreciate what we have at home.
I think that part of it was excellent, how you broke that down. I also would like to say, I hope you don't allow the ending of this story take away from the beginning of how brave you were and how you went out there and did what you did. I think it's inspiring, and I also believe in my heart that the universe rewards people who do things like that. So I think this is just a step back for something even greater in the future. So don't blame yourself and keep your head up.
There is so much for you to be proud of. I mean, really. I mean,
so much.
Taking the shot, going for it, and then as Kristen and Cassie said, identifying the signs and not staying and being brave enough to be in your element and know that this is a dangerous situation and walk away. Also knowing that there was so much pressure from so many that were rooting for this also. There's a lot to be proud of, and I hope you are.
Thank you. And I'm very proud of the self-trust that I have with myself because I knew something was wrong, and I always kind of wonder, like, you know, I think it's a very easy question, like, why do women stay? Why do women stay? And I think sometimes we can get caught up in the good parts and the story of it all. And I think this is a perfect example of the story of it all. And if he had been in my hometown, I would have walked away earlier. So I hope that women can see that. And I don't really know how to end this because I'm a little,
I'll just say Bert Show.
The Bert Show.
The Bert Show.